We like to cover off a few of the basics and teach you some of the stuff that, as a chef, are absolute essentials. Today, we're going to look at lamb. So that's what's inside this lovely little stocking here. I'm going to show you how to butcher the whole lamb and then go on to show you how to prep a couple of those primals. I'm going to do a rack of lamb, I'm going to do a loin of lamb, and also a belly of lamb. Later on, we're going to cook those things. So the final dish, after all this butchery work, is going to be lamb 3 ways. This sheep has been dressed, which means obviously it's been sent to slaughter and they've prepared it to this point. They've hung it in this stocking. And even though it seems all pretty gory, you have to remember that this is what we eat if we eat meat, okay? And some people get really squeamish about this, but I think if you're introduced to the whole animal earlier on in your life, it's not such a shock, all right? So most obvious is the neck, and then the shoulders, the rack, the saddle, and the 2 back legs. First up, we're going to take the shoulder off. So what I do is I draw a line down, right? And then very neatly, straight down. So again, I'm going to do that on that side. Find out where that shoulder's moving and go, right, I'm going to draw a line straight there. And the whole process now is about using the knife just to sort of tease away first shoulder. Next bit, I'm going to remove the legs. Now, there's 2 hip bones in there. So what you do, let's do the other side. What I can do is just split the leg. So, the leg. So let's show you how I'm going to prepare the saddle and the rack. So first of all, let's take this rack. Now remember, there's 2 eyes of meat that run down what is the spine, okay, around that central piece of bone. So what you've got to do is you make 2 small incisions and then you draw your knife all the way down that central bone, all right, because it's like a T-section. What I want to do is remove the backbone from this rack. So what I'm going to do is, just using the saw, is just clip down, making sure that I'm not going into the meat. So now it's starting to resemble a rack of lamb that you'd see in the butcher's shop. So we want to keep the bones, let's say about that long. And now I've got that breast of lamb. Next, I want to remove what they call the bark, all right? So I look at the eye of the meat, which is here. So I'm just going to take a point and I draw a line straight the way through it. I'm going to remove that, okay? So now you can see that's really starting to look like a rack of lamb. I need to remove the skin. The skin is quite a thin membrane, and the best way to get it off is to tease it, all right? Now the Frenching bit. What I do is I go all the way down on one side and then go the other way. Then what I do is I take that little piece of meat and I remove it along the inside of the rack of lamb. So this is the Frenching bit. I started at the front, and I work my way around, and then when I get to the end, I clean the other side. All right, so that's a Frenched rack of lamb. Now I'm going to take these loins, right, which run down the centre of this saddle off the bone, okay? So first up, we're going to remove this little line of fat on the inside. And then find where that bone is, which runs right down the middle, and then draw a line with our knife right down. And then follow the bone. Remove one. These are the fillets. So you see how cleanly I keep that bone? Right? It's quite important. So same as when we did the rack, we identify where that little spine is, exactly the same way. You want to tease away with your knife. So saddle, loin. What I'm showing you is how to roll and wrap this loin back into its own fat. So what I'm doing is I'm teasing that very thin layer of fat away from the loin without completely destroying it. All right, so that's about as far as I want to go. Now, to make it even thinner, what I do is I pop that fat in there and then I wrap that little piece in cling film, and then just bat it in a methodical way so that it presses out that really thin membrane. So loin back together, a few little thyme leaves, and then we're just going to roll that up nice and tightly into that fat, all right? So I'm going to tie this. I'm going to do this very carefully. I always put a center string, and then I put a string nearly at the end, and then 3/4 of the way along. And then I bisect each one. And that's important because that'll keep, while it's cooking, that little membrane of fat will keep it moist and it will dissolve away. And that string will keep it nice and tight so it sticks together. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cook these 2 sweet cuts, but also these breasts of lamb, okay?
Next on Masterclass.
So I'm looking for that fat to be nice and crisp and golden, so it's getting there.